Kinney.
Jeremy Kinney. And he's the lead on the Flak Bait update. And I'll be going through those slides. It's kind of, I apologize for it not being on a PowerPoint situation, but this is what they sent me, but I can still use my handy dandy clicker to get through the slides. And you'll see what the progress they're making on the it's not a restoration, but it's a preservation of the aircraft, so they can static display it in the facility that's out by Dulles Airport. And I can't remember the name of that facility out there. But I remember when I was doing some of my Pentagon work, I always wanted to go to the Air and Space Museum downtown on the mall area there by Congress. And I remember seeing the front nose section up to the pilot's compartment of the aircraft, and that's all that was there.
Yeah.
And I thought, where the heck is the rest of it? You know, so.
And they had painted over it to make it more
Yeah.
bright, yeah.
Yeah, he was very, go ahead, Roberta.
Nick, in October of this year, they will be opening the one at the downtown mall, all redone.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that, at one time, that, of course, that was the only place you could go for the air and space, but now they've got the facility up at the airport. Okay, let's get going on this. This is the Flak Bait project update by the National Air and Space Museum, Smithsonian. On the overview, what's been done, their goals moving forward. There's a target date right there. You can see that 2025 to get it done. And of course, talking about who's working on it and where they are. And you can see from this picture the pieces and parts are together in one big hangar area, and they're working on them individually. This is a blow up, and it shows the completion by parts by color code. The green right here are the ones that are done. And of course, you can see the completion of in progress in the lighter blue on the completion percentage of certain sections. So there's a big piece of the fuselage and the wings and part of the engine cowlings that still have to be done. So there's still quite a bit of work to do, but like I said before, they hope to be done by 2025. This is a reinstallation and corrosion reduction platform here. They're trying to make sure that it doesn't rust anymore. Okay, it is obviously from 1945 what was recovered and brought out there. There's a lot of damage to the plane as far as flak damage and holes and things like that were repaired in combat. So they're trying to keep that and preserve that as it was at the end of the war. This is a chart that talks about some of the major sections of the aircraft and the progress they're having from the interior and the exterior viewpoint. They're reviewing some of the iconic areas and surface coatings, looking at internal fittings, bomb bay doors repairing, cleaning the surfaces, reduction coating for rust, sheet metal repairs, corrosion reduction again. Down here we have the reassessment and treatment required for the weapon system. So I don't know what that means on the weapon system. What model, does anybody know what model that was?
I believe it's a B, but I'm not
Is
sure.
it a B model?
Yeah, it wasn't a C.
Okay, because there was 202 combat missions and 5 decoy missions, and that was the most of any bomber in World War II. Okay, you recognize that this is the ball turret section right here from the aircraft. That's where my uncle would spend most of his time when he was flying. He was the flight engineer. And you can see the assembly. They're taking pictures of it to make sure they know what goes where in case they start tearing things apart. They've got a picture record of it. And of course you can see some of their workspace in the background here. Now, how somewhat organized it is, but they're really taking section by section to clear it out and reconstitute the aircraft as it was. Now look at this. Martin Company logo on the top turret armor plate. Do you remember seeing those on the aircraft?
No, I never seen one.
Interesting. Of course, from this you can see all the corrosion and from the time period and over the logo itself. Volunteer projects all over the place. like any museum, there's a lot of volunteers that work for those museums, and they're working on this project quite heavily. And there's a lot of, I read this comment down here, sifting through a bag of vacuumed gunk to find flak. It's all over the place on the inside of the aircraft. You'll see there's some more pictures here to show that, but they're really getting into it. Look at this. Gum wrapper. Who had Wrigley's when they were a kid? Okay, well, they had it in 1944 and 45, obviously. But it was still there. You can see some of the other residue in this area right here. Some of that's flak residue. Some of it's rust, but most of it's probably flak. Okay, these are resources for the project and the blogs that are going on. If you want to copy these down or take a picture of with your phone if you want to do that, or I can send this presentation to you if you want to give me some email addresses. So you can have those blog information, but that's a picture of what it looked like at the end of the war, Flak Bait. I don't know what field that is. It's probably in France. But anyways, that's what it looked like at the end of the war with all the markings on the side for missions. They were all over the place. The treatment team. These are some of the other contacts if you wanted to let them know what's going on, or what questions you might have. But there's, you can see they got the curator and the main point of contact for the project. And then down here you got the preparation and restoration specialist right here. And of course, they control everything that's going out and all the volunteers that are there. I'm sure they're paid individuals for the museum. And of course, they've relied on a volunteer force to get this done. That is it. Nice and short, yes.
I was trying to remember the man in charge prior to Kinney. Do you remember that name?
I don't. In fact, he was at one of our reunions.
Pat Robinson.
Pat Robinson was the preservation head restorer, but Jeremy Kinney is always at the top.
He's always been at the top.
Yeah.
Always at the top. Pat is no longer, Pat took over redoing the museum down in the mall.
Yeah.
So they took him off the project.
Okay.